Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are taking a really fascinating look at an artist who, frankly, was painting a full century ahead of his time. We're talking about Arkhip Kuindzhi.
We are. And this deep dive is based on material celebrating the 175th anniversary of his birth, which really positions him not just as a great 19th century painter, but as a genuine revolutionary.
A revolutionary who basically pioneered the techniques and compositions of 20th century art.
It's a crucial distinction to make. The sources are pretty clear that Kuindzhi was this relentless, almost scientific, experimental painter. He used his art to investigate the physics of light and color.
So we aren't just looking at his career chronologically.
No, not at all. We're looking at it thematically, which is actually how the major exhibition this research is drawn from was structured.
Okay, let's unpack that. I love that framework. So the exhibition is split into 4 key sections, right? Each one representing a different phase of his artistic thinking.
That's right. It starts with Attraction of the Earth, then Secret of the Night, followed by Expanses of Eternity, and it wraps up with Ahead of Time.
Which tells you immediately his contribution wasn't some steady, linear evolution. It was a series of, well, paradigm shifts.
Exactly. And to set the stage, you have to remember, Kuindzhi's story is one of pure ambition. He loved drawing from childhood, and he achieved his dream pretty early on. He studied under the great marine painter Ivan Aivazovsky.
Right, in Feodosia around 1865.
And then later he makes his way to Saint Petersburg, gets into the Academy of Arts in 1868, and that's where his real innovative talent just starts to explode.
Which brings us right to that first section, Attraction of the Earth. This is the foundation. He spent a lot of time on Valaam, on Lake Ladoga.
A famous spot for landscape students. And his early painting from there, Ladoga Lake, it caused a real stir.
It wasn't the subject, though, was it? It was how he painted it.
It was absolutely the execution. What captivated everyone was this extreme clarity, the purity of the air he captured. He painted the water so transparently you could actually see the rocky bottom of the lake.
Wow.
And this motif, this kind of hyper-realistic clarity, it was so new and so successful that other artists immediately started trying to imitate it.
And this early work is what really launched his career. There's that great anecdote about his other painting on Valaam from 1874.
Oh, yeah. The great painter Ilya Repin, who was still young himself then, he saw the work and was just floored by it. He immediately wrote this glowing letter to the most influential collector in Russia, Pavel Tretyakov.
And Tretyakov bought it.
Instantly. And that began this very long, very important patronage.
So let's get into the weeds here. How did he get that incredible internal luminosity, especially in a piece like North? You look at it and it's not just a landscape. The real subject, as the sources say, is the air itself. How did he make the canvas glow from within?
This is where his technical genius really starts to show. He wasn't just blending tones like his contemporaries. He used a multi-layered approach.
Okay.
It involved a really complex palette light, pinks, blues, and crucially, he used separate, distinct brushstrokes. And he made very active, very strategic use of his underpainting.
So the underpainting wasn't just a base layer, it was an active part of the final effect.
Exactly. The combination of these raised strokes and that specific reflective underpainting meant that light didn't just fall on the canvas. It seemed to be caught and then reflected back from within the layers of paint.
It makes it feel alive.
It does. It gives the work this incredible, almost palpable emotional resonance.
It's interesting to contrast that with a piece like After the Rain. I mean, he takes a simple motif, a passing shower, but he turns it into something just utterly modern.
Yes. He was revolutionary in how he treated light and motion. That painting is built on two violently contrasting color planes. You have the dark, damp, blue-violet storm clouds retreating, and then this intensely luminous, almost glowing green grass on the ground that's just been hit by the sun.
It sounds less like a painting and more like a study in dramatic physics.
It is. His goal wasn't just realism. It was to document the movement of light, the struggle between the dark retreating and the bright light coming in. To capture that fleeting state of nature was, well, it was radical for the time.
And that drive to capture the feeling of nature, not just the facts, that leads him into a more symbolic phase. Let's move to section 2 and Birch Grove.
From 1879, a massive sensation.
Why? What made it stand out so much?
It was a generalized, symbolic image of a high summer day, not a detailed narrative, but the composition. That's what got everyone talking. He radically cuts off the crowns of the birch trees.
Which, to a traditional painter, that's just wrong. It's bad composition, so why do it? What's the effect?
It completely changes your perspective. You're not standing outside the landscape looking in anymore. That choice pulls you directly into the hot, bright light of that summer day. You're right there.
He's freeing conventional rules for a visceral experience.
Precisely. He uses these broad patches of color to simplify and generalize the forms, and the result looks much closer to 20th century art, almost like a poster.
I've heard that after Birch Grove, painting birches became this huge trend.
It did. The artist Igor Grabar later said Kuindzhi basically invented the visual shorthand for the Russian summer.
So all this experimentation leads him to this period of artistic reclusion. He just stops exhibiting publicly.
For a long time, yeah. He worked to be a stole for the drawer for himself. He was a deeply religious man, very contemplative, and he saw the creator's hand in nature, especially in light.
And that quiet period led to the absolute climax of his career, which is our third section, The Secret of the Night.
And the climax, of course, is Moonlit Night on the Dnieper.
An event more than an exhibition. Tell us about the chaos when it was displayed for just 2 weeks in St. Petersburg.
Chaos is the right word. In the middle of a dark, snowy winter, 13,000 people, an unheard-of number, queued up in the freezing cold just to see this one single painting. Ripon wrote that people left the viewing in prayerful silence and with tears. They were just overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed to the point that they started spreading these wild rumors, right? That he had invented special glowing paints, or that you had to view it through some kind of colored glass.
Yeah, they suspected trickery. But the secret wasn't magic paint. It was simple, brilliant, and scientific. Kuindzhi had studied optical laws.
So it was all about the setup, the presentation.
100%. The room was pitch black, draped in heavy fabric. The only light came from a single, highly directed beam from the new piece of tech, a Gal-Blochkov lamp.
Okay, so you have this focused spotlight. How did the paint itself harness that light?
The parts that were meant to shine, the moon, its path on the water, were painted with impasto.
Meaning very thick paint, right, raised off the canvas.
Exactly. So those raised, textured areas would catch that focused lamplight and reflect it intensely. Then for the water, for the ripples, he used dry brushing to create these tiny ridges.
Ah, so the tops of the ridges catch the light.
And the darker underpainting in the grooves absorbs it. That contrast creates this flickering, dynamic illusion of flowing moonlit water. It was pure science, creating transcendence.
That search for transcendence, for a light that wasn't just reflected but emanated, it led him to the metaphysical. He worked for 20 years on Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane.
He did. And with that painting, he was trying to move past optics. He wanted to depict an unearthly, uncreated light, a divine light coming directly from the Savior's body.
Which marks his shift toward this cosmic gaze.
And that leads us straight into section 4, Expanses of Eternity. His gaze shifts outward to the vastness. Love the detail that he always preferred to rent top-floor apartments.
Just so he could get on the roof.
Exactly. He wanted height, freedom. She'd spend hours up there gazing at the stars, the huge sky. He was contemplating the cosmic.
And you can see that philosophical shift in the work if you compare, say, Dnieper at Dawn from 1881.
Which is beautiful, lush, full of detailed vegetation, butterflies, burdock. A very realistic landscape.
With his later works, like the one his students called Volga. It's completely different.
Totally simplified.
Yeah.
He moves away from realistic detail and toward philosophical generalization. He uses these stark, complementary color blocks, a strong blue against an ochre brown, to achieve what the sources call ringing emptiness.
He's not painting a place anymore.
He's painting space itself as a category of the universe.
Which is why his first biographer called him the singer of the cosmos.
Yeah.
And why there's that incredible rumor that he was trying to develop a flying machine.
Even though no sketches survive, you can feel it. His last works, like clouds, they look like they were viewed from an incredible height, or from, an unknown ship heading into unknown worlds.
And the art world noticed. The critic Alexander Benoit, back in 1903, made this huge comparison. He said Kuindzhi's role for Russian painters was like Manet's role internationally.
It's a massive comparison. Benoit said Kuindzhi revealed the secret of the color palette to Russian artists. He showed them the power of bright, contrasting colors. He forced them to break out of that muted 19th century tone.
Which brings us to our final section, Ahead of Time, and his direct influence. A great example is Roofs, from way back in 1876.
Such a great example. The whole motif of urban rooftops and his really complex handling of shades of white that wasn't popularized until much, much later by the Miroskuzva artists.
Decades later.
Decades. And some of his cityscapes, with their fragmented compositions, they feel closer to Soviet-era painters than his own contemporaries.
What about his relationship with Impressionism? He saw their work, he used some of their methods.
He did, especially in his snow scenes. But he never became an Impressionist because their goals were fundamentally different.
Oh, so?
The Impressionists wanted to capture a fleeting, instantaneous moment, the effect of light right now. Kuindzhi was using their techniques to get at something permanent, the essential universal meaning of nature. He wanted the light to last forever.
And in his final period, he fully leaned into modernism and symbolism. A painting like Golden Autumn.
It's pure decorative color. Nature is treated as a symbolic sign.
We can't forget his legacy as a teacher either. The Kuindzhi school.
So important. He taught major figures like Nicholas Roerich, and what he taught them was to be fearless with color and light.
He had that famous empirical system, right? The black cardboard.
Yes. He'd tell students painting a night scene to hold up a piece of black cardboard to their canvas. It acted as a tuning fork for tone. It let them instantly see if their darkest darks were truly dark enough to make the light sing.
Just brilliant. The journey is incredible. From hyperrealism and the study of air to optical illusions in a dark room, and finally to this cosmic, philosophical symbolist.
And what the sources suggest is that the sheer scale of his innovation was so great that even the posthumous shows in 1913 and 1914, the public just wasn't ready.
They didn't get it.
No. We are only now, a century later, really able to see him as the transformative master that he actually was.
Kuindzhi was a deep contemplative, someone who could just stop, find the essential truth in nature, and capture it with this shocking effect by melding art and science. I think his work is such a powerful reminder that observation isn't passive. It's active.
It really is.
It's the power of looking at something so closely that you understand both the physics and the spiritual truth behind the beauty. So let's leave you with this thought. We know he mastered light using focus lamps and layered paint in the 1880s. If Kuindzhi were painting today, right now, what modern technological or optical trick, maybe real-time digital projection, maybe advanced luminescent materials, some kind of controlled environment, what would he use to create an equally overwhelming, mesmerizing, and scientifically brilliant effect in his art? Something to think about.